So I don't really know what to call this thing, whether it's a gusset or a bracket or a corbel. Anyway, one of these things, but made out of wood. Its whole purpose is to hold up the middle at the front of this desktop because there's nothing really there to support it other than the C-channel and the finger joint that I did earlier. So first things first, I got to mill up some of this 50mm thick stock. I want it to come down to 40mm for this thing, and then I can get it all ready to do the glue up for the blank. And then what I'll be doing is making a template, cutting it out on the bandsaw, and then bringing it down to final size with the template on the router table. The mechanical strength of this support primarily comes from the thickness of the material I'm using and the joinery that I'll cut in a minute. But another thing that I need to consider is grain direction. Because I'm effectively making a triangle, I'm going to run into the issue of having some areas that have very short grain and therefore are relatively weak. It's a bit hard to explain without a visual aid, so I'll quickly make up the actual template for the piece, which as you can see has a nice curve to soften the fact that it's essentially just a big triangle, and I'll round off the edges over on the sander as well. So now that I've got this sorted, I can get the blank out of the clamps and finally lay my template down. I'm going to stop it here so I can show you what I need to focus on when it comes to the grain direction. If I was to have my board placed on a square blank with the grain direction running in this orientation, at the back I would have some really nice long grain and it would be really strong. But as I work my way towards the front of the board, I end up with these little sections down the bottom that are very weak. There's a high risk that if there's a force applied in this direction, this part is just going to snap off and go that direction. So to overcome this, instead of orienting my board with the grain running that way, I've flipped it 45 degrees to the grain direction, which gives me an equally long grain run, I guess you'd say, through all of the pieces, and it absolutely maximizes the surface area that I get in these glue joints, because there are some parts that are just segments of a board compared to the rest that have almost a full board running through it. So with all that said and done, I can get back to tracing the template on my blank, cutting the two right-angled sections with the track saw, and then I can pop it over to the bandsaw to get the curve all sorted. Seeing as this beech works really well in a router scenario, I'm not too worried about getting massive amounts of tear out or splinters when routing it to my template. However, it's always good practice to remove as much material as possible. That way your router's not having to work as hard and you're keeping things as safe as possible. To secure the template in place, I'm just using a healthy amount of double-sided tape and my fence as a nice flat surface to get everything lined up. And then I'll start the process off with my trim router and a flush cut bit to establish a flat reference surface for then me to take it over to the router table, put a much larger flush cut piece in, and then just follow the line. Now that I've got an exact replica of my template, I can move over to the table saw to start cutting the large tenons that will attach this curved piece to the plates that actually attach to the wall and the underside of the desktop. To keep the joinery pretty straightforward, I'm just cutting a shoulder on each of the sides that's 10mm deep by 10mm wide, which means I don't have to move my fence for the vertical and horizontal cuts. And then with the crosscut sled, I can establish the haunch on the ends. I'm leaving those about a millimetre shy of where I want them to finally end up, so I can come back in with my chisels and get the cleanest line possible. These pieces, which will be getting set into there. So next up I'll just cut the mortises in these and give that a bit of a test fit just to see how it's all going. So I've just squared off all of the corners with my chisels, and I'll just give it a quick test fit, and then if that all goes well, I will be looking at cutting a few dominoes in for the right angle butt joint, and then screwing and gluing this thing together. Cool. So I'll cut that one down to length. I might give this a nice sort of round over so it's nice and smooth. Get that all sanded up. Might do a little bit of a round over just on these corners as well, just to soften them. And then we're good to go. So I may have told a white lie. I'm not going to be able to glue this up until I'm actually on site on installation day, because this is the side that goes along the wall, and I don't know exactly where any of the studs or dwangs are in that wall, and I'm hoping for there to be at least one of each so I can do several mounting positions. But I'm just thinking, if I've got this installed, trying to drill in and pre-drill some holes in this is just going to be at risk of damaging the nice face here. So probably paid to be able to take it apart on site, just screw this back plate into the wall, or get it ready to be screwed into the wall with all the holes drilled in it, and then glue and screw it all together. So while I'm waiting for that, I can at least just pre-drill and screw these parts into this curved part, so those are all registered, and then I'll be able to finish it and get it ready for install day, so there's no fluffing about on that day. So that probably doesn't even need glue, but I'll do it anyway on installation day, just to really beef that joint up. And yeah, so that's the gist. That will be going up on the wall like that and supporting the tabletop along there. And because I've done that that mortise in through there, and there's a bit of a shelf there, it really has a nice ledge to transfer all of the weight down to. And then as long as I can screw a few screws into something solid in the wall, that will serve its purpose. So I can put that aside for now and get on to the next thing.